Hi, this is Jocelin from Good Girls Go to Heaven, and you're listening to my Stuttering Life podcast hosted by Pedro Pena. So let's get started.
What's up, guys? This is Pedro from my Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. This is episode number 49, and my special guest is Callum Schofield. Callum is from South Wales, which is in the UK, and has had a stammer for as long as he can remember. At present, he is trying to learn from his experiences to help others as a motivational speaker by sharing his story and life advice to people of all ages. I am honored to have him as a guest with me on the My Stuttering Life podcast. Welcome, Callum Schofield.
Hi, Pedro. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here and looking forward to getting started.
Thank you, sir. This is a true honor, and so I cannot wait to get started. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started. Do you remember when you first began to stutter?
It's quite a hard one, really, because what I found is I don't have any memories of not stuttering. I find that even when I think back to times that I might have spoke okay, it feels like my stutter has almost tainted those memories, that I can remember myself stuttering when I haven't before. But what I know for definite is it started at an early age, say 4 or 5, but I can't remember when exactly. So I think that's a thing with memories and stuttering, is if you let them, they kind of work with each other to play tricks on you in some ways.
Does it run in your family? Does anyone else stutter?
No, I'm the only one in my family who stutters, and as far as I know, that's in my recent family, and I don't think there's a history of it either. So I think on the one hand, that's quite hard because it's not a genetic thing for me. So, when I was younger and before I accepted my stutter, I always used to think, why me? After my whole family, it's only me. And so I sort of felt a bit isolated, really. And even though I'm the only person who stutters in my family, members of my family, especially my mother, have all worked hard to learn about stuttering, and my mother has supported me a lot since I was young.
That's great. Family support is extremely critical to those who stutter at a very young age, because we need that help and support.
Yes, I agree with that, because when you stutter, it can feel like a lonely place, especially if you don't know anyone else. So having that family support is a good foundation to build greater levels of support, I think.
You are 100% correct, because when I was growing up, all through grade school and junior high and high school, I thought I was the only person who stuttered until I met a guy in my 20s, and he stuttered because I thought I was the only one in the entire earth globe that had a stutter. But later on, I found out there's a whole lot of us all over the world.
Yes, and I think that's, I'm trying to think of how to word it, but the fact that lots of people feel like they're the only one is clearly a problem with knowledge of stuttering and raising awareness, because people shouldn't feel like they're alone.
Right. During your school years, had you ever had speech therapy? And if you did, was it helpful?
I went to speech therapy first as a young child. I can't remember a lot about that, but I know here in the UK is the thing is with speech therapy is stammering isn't covered that much with it, and anyone, say a young child with a stammer, the common advice is to ignore it. So I didn't find that very helpful. Then I went back to speech therapy when I was 10 or 11. Looking back in hindsight, quite a lot of the stuff that was said there did make sense. But at the time, I was a 10-year-old kid. I didn't see myself any different to anyone else. So I didn't put the work in to use speech therapy because I didn't really understand what I was being taught. And then again, with speech therapy is a lack of support afterwards, as you got the sessions, but it was only this year when I went on the Starfish Project, which is a non-profit organisation to help control stammers or stutters, is when I really learned to benefit myself and my speech.
How cool. That's great. Now, how did you do in high school? I think y'all call it secondary school there in your country, because in high school you have the hormones going on, and you have the peer pressure and you have all this. But if you stutter, I mean, it's like more difficult for me. How was your high school experience as a person who stuttered?
I couldn't agree more with what you said about the hormones and peer pressure because, like you said, it's challenging for anyone that step up between a child and an adult. And with that peer pressure, you want to fit in. You don't want to give people a reason to think of you any d- differently. So that's what I found hard was trying to hide my stutter because I was paranoid about other people's reactions. I remember a few times I would get quite emotional about my speech in school because I thought people were laughing at me, making fun of me. And obviously, the normal hormones of being emotional went along with that. And I can remember lots of my teachers telling me no one is laughing at me. But I just didn't want to. No, I wanted to believe them, but my stutter was kind of in the back of my mind, telling me that people were laughing at me. But I was quite lucky never to get bullied for having a stutter. But that didn't stop little jokes, insults, being compared to a gun, a helicopter, just the smirks, the laughs that every person with a stutter knows about. So I feel like school was a challenge for me. It was secondary school or high school, as you would call it, which did sort of cause more anxiety for me, especially with classes when you had to answer questions out loud or in an English lesson we have to read a few sentences out loud. I would always hate that. That was one of my most feared things. At some bad patches, I really hated school. Well, not school itself, but I hated the thought of speaking in school. So that was a real important time for me developing as a man, really, was to try to overcome those challenges.
Well, I know exactly how you feel all the way across this pond, because they would compare me to Porky Pig. And oh,
Oh, yeah.
oh yes. I mean, one time they they had me read out loud in school, and it was just horrible. I mean, I could not say anything, and so I could see the other kids laughing and pointing and Porky Pig, and so I told myself this ain't never going to happen again. And so
Yeah.
for the next time that we all had to read out loud, they would go down the line desk wise. And so when it was approaching me, I would raise my hand and go to the restroom. And so I did that for years. And so my teachers had thought that I had a medical condition because
Oh,
because I kept on going to the restroom. But no, I did not want to face the fear and trauma of reading out loud and having everyone just point at me and Porky Pig and he can't talk and sit down. And so how I coped with it, and this is only me because we are all different on our journeys, but how I handled it is, I just had to go to the restroom. And then also during school, the first 2 days, you have to give an introduction of yourself. Hi, I'm Pedro. I'm in the third grade. Blah blah blah. And so what I did to avoid that, I skipped the first 2 days of school, my entire school life, leading all the way up to college. In college, I would always miss the first 2 days because you have to give your introduction, and so I could never do that. So I just skipped the first 2 days of my entire school life career because that's how I coped with it. That's just me.
Yeah, it's as you said, we all have different coping mechanisms. Like I did similar stuff to you. I always excuse myself whenever it came to speaking, or would find a reason. If I had to do a presentation in school, I would go home ill in the day just so I didn't have to do it.
Do you have any advice for parents and teachers with regards to children who stutter?
I think the most important thing is stammering is not known. It's unknown and misunderstood. So you can't expect a child to educate other people fully about it. So I think people need to educate themselves, as only, I believe it's 3% of the world's population stutter. And you can't rely on 3% to educate 97%. Of course, we can do our bit. Like, you've got this incredible podcast, and I'm working towards becoming a motivational speaker. But we can't do it all. We need people to educate themselves first. One thing I really want to sort of hit on the head, you could say, or hit head on, is how stuttering is nothing to do with nerves or intelligence. It's a neurological condition. It's something to do with the brain. Even though there's a lack of knowledge, we still know it's a condition. It's nothing to do with being nervous or being dull, which unfortunately quite a lot of people think. So, my main piece of advice would be tell people it's okay to stutter, to help them embrace it, perhaps, and just educate yourself about stuttering, because we can do our bit, but if we really want to make a difference, we need to all work together.
You are you hit that right on the head.
Thank you.
Because I hear from a lot of people who don't stutter that, oh, you're just nervous, just calm down and breathe. And so I'm just looking at them. I don't stutter because I'm nervous. I stutter because I stutter. That's it. When I was 5 years old, I was walking home from school, and there was this huge German Shepherd dog in this front yard of this house. And so as I was passing the house, this huge white dog was staring at me. Now, I'm 5 years old, I'm kind of little. And so I'm just walking. And so I look at the dog, and is staring at me, and he gets up and he runs towards me. And here I am. I don't know what to do. So I start running towards my house. And this huge dog is gaining, and he jumps on me and is biting the back of my leg. And so as he jumped on me, I fell onto the sidewalk, which is concrete, and I hit my head. And so the neighbors heard me screaming, calling out for help, and they came to my aid, and the dog ran away. And so all that I can remember is after that event, I could not speak. And when I did, no one could understand me. And so that's when my parents put me in speech therapy, which actually helped me go from 0% fluency to about 85% right now. But that's due to decades of speech therapy and hypnosis. And so when people tell me to just calm down because I'm nervous or I am anxious, I have to educate them. No, I stutter because I stutter. There is no correlation between having anxiety and being nervous as the cause of stuttering. So I know where you are coming from, Callum, where we just have to educate people like 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And first of all, I gotta say that's a incredible story, because that's what I found interesting is no two people seem to have the same stuttering story. And that's what's pretty amazing about stuttering is even though we're all the same in some ways, we're all different in other ways. And it's really interesting finding out what helped some people, what maybe didn't help other people. But like you said, we need to be doing as much as we can to educate people and raise awareness.
You are like so correct. Bravo, you are awesome.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this, job wise, had you ever faced discrimination because of your stammer?
Now, this is a question that has made me think, because if you're looking at it from a outside opinion, you would probably say yes, that I've been maybe held back or overlooked. But when I really think about it, is the discrimination I've had in my employment has only come from myself for thinking I can't do this job, I can't do this part of this job, and things like that. Because I find that's the hardest part, is I will think, because of my stutter, I can't speak to customers, I can't engage in conversation, I can't lead a team. So because in the past I maybe haven't pushed myself in work in certain areas, it might look like it's because of my stutter that I'm being discriminated against, but actually I'm discriminated against myself because I'm not putting myself out there. But as I mentioned earlier, thanks to the Starfish project, my life has changed. So now I don't have to discriminate about what I can and can't do, especially in jobs, because I know I've learned to control my speech. And as we both know, what you've got to say is far more important than how you say it. But yeah, with employment, I think I I've been my biggest burden, so to speak.
You just blew me away with that response because I never thought about it that way, that I was self self discriminating on jobs that I wanted. I've never thought about that. That is, wow, that's huge, Callum. I mean you just kind
I
of blew
know.
my mind. I'm kind of speechless because growing up, there were a ton of jobs that I was qualified for and that I could do, but in the actual job ad, it had in bold print and in all caps, must have excellent communication skills. And once I saw that, I said, no, big X. So the newspaper
Yeah.
had a lot of red X's because it's like they want a person who can speak clearly and effectively. But I mean, I was qualified for all those jobs, but I told myself that I could never do those jobs. And so I took jobs in data entry, where I wouldn't have to talk to nobody. They would just give you work and then you type all day and put that data into the computer. But I mean, you just blew my mind that we self discriminate in jobs. So, just let me recover from that real quick. Okay. So let me ask you this. So, because of your stammer, have you ever experienced depression? And if you have, did you ever seek help for that?
I'm quite fortunate in the sense I've never experienced depression. I know a lot of people who have because of their stutters, and honestly, it does upset me that people have to go through that. And I do count myself lucky that I haven't. But then again, what I have experienced is low self esteem, anxiety, self doubt, and that's all impacted on me a lot. And that's whether that's in employment, in school, or just having a social life, that you've got these little seeds of doubt, you could call them, and you start to let those seeds of doubt grow. So my self-esteem, or sorry, low self-esteem and anxiety just grew and grew for me. I would get to the point where I would just feel like, what's the point in speaking? If nobody's going to listen, or nobody wants to listen, why don't I just not speak? Why don't I text everyone? Find a job where I don't have to speak, don't have to do an interview. And that really impacted on me. If I was going out for food, I would always feel so anxious waiting for the waiter or waitress to come and take your order. When you go out for food or go to a pub or anything like that, it's meant to be leisure time, people call it, to enjoy yourself. So the fact that I'm out there having food with my family, my friends, and I am sat there, like physically shaking from nerves, choosing something that I want from the menu. Sorry, not choosing something I want from the menu, but choosing something I can say. And then, because of this self-doubt, anxiety, feeling isolated, and you are feeling quite low, that does all impact on you, and that's a hard habit to get out of.
Wow, you bring up so many good points. Let me tell you how I handle restaurants. And granted, I'm much older than you are because you are very young, but I am much older than you are. So this is how I handled restaurants. So I would pick restaurants that had pictures of the food on the menus because let me tell you, if it didn't have a picture of the food item, I would just walk out. And so I would mainly so I would mainly eat at at Mediterranean restaurants because they have pictures of their food, and then also Chinese restaurants. And so all I had to do was point. That's it. Hold on. Point and smile. And so when I would
Yeah.
and so when I would do that, there was A, shame and guilt, of course. But then B, okay, so I pick my food, and so now I can eat with my shame and my guilt. But this is how I had to handle life's stressors because there have been times when I was at a restaurant with some other people. And I mean, that poor waiter, I would just spit everywhere and it was it was awkward and it was kind of gross too, but but I just learned how to just cope for the next time. So I would do my homework and just pre-plan and make sure that the menus always had photos. That was just how I handled life's stressors.
Yeah, I completely understand what you mean. I just want to say, I'm sure you're not much older than me,
uh
but yeah.
I am
But,
Callum. I'm almost 50.
yeah, that's not much.
But this is how I picture life. I feel like I'm 20, but, but I act like I'm 12. So my philosophy on life is that I am going to live my best life. I stutter. Oh, well, guess what? Life goes on. I'm not going to let it run my life because I am in control. Pedro is in control of his life. So, right now I'm just living my best life.
That's a brilliant philosophy to have. And I think if everyone who had a stutter thought like you do, then there would be so much positive change. It would be something else if people thought like that. If everyone did, I should say.
But, Callum, it took me a long time. It took me 43 years. Okay. Let that marinate for a little bit. 43 years it took me to reach that point. Now, I wish I did it in my 20s where, you're just hanging out, you're going to the club, you're having a good time. But no, it took me 43 years to just reach that point where I'm done. When I turned 40 years old, I said, I'm done. I am exhausted because stuttering is draining physically, mentally, psychologically. It just drains you. And so when I turned the big 40, I said, I'm done. That's it. I don't care. And once I did that, let me tell you, everything lifted from my shoulders. I tell you, the next day I felt awesome because I could care less if I stuttered. And let me tell you, I used a lot of what most people call a crutch, but I call it a tool in my tool belt. For example, when I go to Starbucks and, I'm having a bad speech day, when I approach the barista and they ask your name, well, if I can't say Pedro, I'll say Harry, I'll say Jorge, I'll say Paco. I mean, I'll say anything but my name. But here's the funny part. So after I give them a whole different name, I go back to my table, and so I'm on my phone, I'm multitasking, and when they call out Jorge or Paco or Harry, you know, uh, I'm not registering to that because my name's Pedro, and then
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
but then after a while, the barista is staring at you. Hey, Jorge. Hey, Paco. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That is my name. I apologize. That's what I did to handle life. But that's just my life.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, so let me ask you this because I talk to a lot of people who have a stutter, or in your country they call it a stammer. How they cope with it is they self medicate with alcohol and or drugs. Have you ever tried that?
Uh, yeah. I found that when I've been out drinking, then I can't tell whether my stutter goes away or whether the caring about my stutter goes away. But I normally find when I'm out, like say out in the clubs, and I've had quite a bit to drink, I will speak to anyone, whether they one of my friends, whether they're one of the people twice my size security on the door, whether they're a stranger, they will be my new best friend for that night because I won't care.
Oh my God. I think we are twins, Callum. I think we're
Yeah.
twins because let me tell you, when I go out, to the club,
Yeah.
back in the day, when I've had rum and coke, because that's my drink. I love me some rum and coke. After a couple of rum and cokes, I feel free. I don't stutter. And like you, I'm talking to everybody and their sister and their brother and their neighbor, and I'm just having the best time in the world. And people have told me, Pedro, you should drink more often, like, all day. I said, no, I can't really do that because, we have to go to work. But with regards to drinking, I have perfect speech, and I am just having a great time, and I feel free, and so that's just interesting how that happens to a lot of people who stutter.
Yeah, it is interesting that. And, I couldn't have said it better myself. You do feel free. And similarly to you, some of my friends have said, why don't we just get me really, really drunk all the time. Like whether if I got a job interview or a interview for a promotion, or I don't think they thought it through.
No, I don't think
But
so. No, I don't think so. Because job interviews are just hard enough. But I have a hard time with my H's. Well, okay, I have a hard time with the entire alphabet, but
yeah,
but I really have a hard time with my H's because when I'm trying to say hello in a job interview, I'm just heavy breathing, like, and people are like, their eyes are just huge and they're wondering, should they call 911 or call the police?
yeah,
Like, what's wrong with this person? So, I could understand their point of view to, drink before a job interview, but I don't think that would work out for me.
no.
No, not really. So I am curious, what is your most effective technique that you do for fluency?
Well, it was the technique that I was taught on the Starfish project, which is called coastal breathing technique. And there's quite a few points to it. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's basically just breathing so your speech is calm, but that's got to go hand in hand with mindset. If you got the mindset that you accepted your stammer and you want to improve your speech, and the technique will come with it. But if you have a negative mindset, then I feel like it's the same for anything really, is you've got to put the work in. You've got to believe it will work. If you're negative, then it's not going to work. That's what I think, as well as the breathing technique that I've used quite a lot in this interview, as well, that if I didn't have the mindset that I want to improve my speech, and I want to make a difference and raise awareness of stuttering or stammering, then I wouldn't be at this point where I am now. So I feel like as much as you can be taught, you've got to have that mental attitude. You got to have that sort of mental robustness that you get through a life of stuttering if you want to better your speech.
Wow, you are so correct because it is important to have a positive mindset because I can't tell you how many days where I used to have a negative mindset where I would hear that little voice in my head. That's my negative self-talk voice. And so I named him Oscar. And so every time I would hear Oscar, you can't do this. You can't do that. Oh, hang up the phone. You can't even make a phone call. That would impact my entire day, my entire week. And so all of the thoughts in my head were just negative. But let me tell you, after I turned 40, no, from here on out, positive mindset. And when I put that positive vibe out there into the universe, I don't know what you uh, believe in, but for me, when I put out positive vibes, I got back positive vibes. And that would help me for a lot of situations that I thought I would have a hard time in. But in my head, like what you were talking about, if you have a positive mindset, I'm ready. I will take that on and I will win. And when I win, I am gonna celebrate. I may go to a club, but I'm gonna celebrate that win because each time I have a win, that's b- building my momentum and that's building my confidence. So I 100% agree with you. It's all about mindset.
Yeah, what you said there about every time you have a win builds your confidence, that's exactly it. Because for us, even a small victory will mean everything. To people who speak more fluently, it might mean nothing to them, but all our own little battles we got going on against ourselves and our speech, whenever you complete one, no matter how small or how big, that gives you the little boost you need to tell you, yeah, I can do this. just because I got a stammer, that doesn't mean anything can stand in my way. It's incredible what your mindset can do and how it can change your life.
Oh, yes. So let's switch gears. Let me ask you, can you sing?
Well, I can sing, but very
I know.
badly, according to everyone.
Me too. There were lots of people who would tell me, don't talk to me, sing to me. And so I thought, okay, that's just strange. And so I'm not going to do that. I will just talk to you. But what I do to help me out before I do many things, there's a tune in my head that I will sing out loud, and that helps me out. But we're all different. But to me, singing has helped me to just tell myself that I can do it. But I don't sing to many people because they tell me to stop. So it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. So here is a powerful question, because when I talk to people who stutter, the responses are just 50-50. It's split right down the middle. So do you let others help you finish your sentences?
As soon as you said 50-50, I knew that would be the question. In the past, I did, because in my mind it was, one, I don't have to speak, and two, it doesn't waste either of our time. But as I've got older, I've noticed that I'd say only 1 in 100 people actually finish the sentence or word correctly. And when they don't, you just have to start again from square one. And nobody wants that. Or if you choose just to carry on, you have to improvise with whatever they've whatever they thought you were going to say. And that normally causes me to stutter more. And then when I look back, I feel regret that I couldn't say what I wanted to say and I let them speak. So I feel if it's obvious what I'm going to say, I don't mind it if someone finishes my sentence or word. But that's only if they're 100% certain of what I'm going to say. And they might be, for whatever reason, they want to finish it. But if it's just talking normally, I'd rather say what I want to say, because I know I will feel that regret and I will be annoyed at myself for sort of word I can ever say for giving up in some ways.
Right. That is very interesting with regards to my history. Before I turned 40, I let everybody talk for me. And, it would irritate me because I felt less than. I felt broken. And so people would have to help me and fix me, so to speak. And then after I turned 40, I told myself, well, so if I'm having a block, I want you to help you help me, because I don't want to have a block and stop breathing and turn red or blue, lose consciousness, and maybe fall to the floor. So, so if you know what I'm trying to say, it's okay to help me out. Although there are certain days where I need to get it out. I need to, for me to help me, I need to get it out. But most often, if you know what I'm trying to say, just help me help you. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah. Because, like you said, it's just helping yourself, helping them, helping you help yourself. That's a mouthful, but yeah.
God, yes, it is.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. It all depends on the scenario, I think, and the day, really.
Right. So, speech wise, how do you handle bad days?
Well, when it was a bad day, if I could, I would just push my to-do list to one side, you could say, and just no, think not happening today. I'll just kind of keep myself to myself. But then, if I did have to do something, I'll hold my hands up. And before I went on this course a few months back, I would never handle a bad day very well. I would just get myself worked up, get myself more nervous, have more blocks than I normally would. Then when I get home, I would feel angry with myself. I'd feel down that I couldn't get my words out and sort of annoyed at myself for having a bad day and not doing anything about it. But this was a similar cycle. No matter how much at the end of the day I would think, right, that's not going to happen again, then I know it would. But luckily, nowadays, the Starfish Project got a brilliant support network. So if I'm having a bad day, there's, hundreds of people who I can just give a call to and say, I'm not feeling the best today, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorted almost just like that.
See, and that is awesome, awesome. Because what I tell a lot of people is it's important to have people around you who are supportive. And those people who are negative, I call them vampires. They are always negative and they drain you with all of their problems. And I mean, everything that comes out of their mouth is negative. So, all those people, I got rid of them. I said, I don't need you in my circle. I only want people who are positive, who are going to support me, guide me, lift me up to help me out in those hard times. So it's awesome that you have that support system to help you out. I love that. That's just awesome.
Yeah, exactly what you said. You need that support, as even though your stutter is a independent thing, it's yours. It's not the same as anyone else's. You can't do it on your own because no one is strong enough to carry everything. Time to time, we all need help. And I think that's probably the hardest part it can be for some people is, throwing your hands up and saying, I can't do this on my own.
Right. Right. And so here's a head scratcher. Okay. So when you are alone, can you speak without stuttering?
Yeah, I found I always can. The occasional word, which normally starts with a G, might crop up and I would stumble on it. But if I'm on my own or talking to my dog, then it's fine. I find my speech is almost perfect.
Oh, wow. See, we're all different in our journeys. So when I am alone, I still stutter. I stutter in the shower, when I talk to my dog, or when I'm cooking in the kitchen and, I'm talking to myself and I answer myself. I'm, st- I'm still stuttering, but you know what? It's okay. It's just Pedro. It's my life. Life will go on. But yeah, many people that I talk to, they tell me again, it's split right down the middle, 50-50. So that's just interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it might sound quite a sad story or something, but I remember in my, say, primary school, which I think you call elementary school, I was on my own quite a lot. I didn't have a set group of friends, you could say. And because of my stutter, I kind of isolated myself. So as a child, I did talk to myself a lot and stuff like that. And I think maybe that's why now, if I'm speaking to myself or thinking out loud or talking to my dog, that's maybe why I can speak more fluently, because as a child, kind of adapted to speaking to myself because I didn't feel comfortable speaking to anyone else in school. And when you're on the playground, I would be b- by myself, really. So
Oh,
I could tell that's an emotional story because I'm stuttering
oh,
more.
Callum, we are in the same boat, my friend. We're in the same boat because, like you, in elementary school, I was all by myself. Nobody. wanted to hang out with the kid who couldn't talk and would spit while he tried to talk. And so during recess, I really hated recess because while everyone else was playing and laughing and running, I was just by a tree or by the building, just all by myself, just looking at them. So wow, I completely know how you feel. Wow. Ooh, that that brought back some memories.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna cry, Callum. I'm not gonna cry. Okay, so let me ask, has this ever happened to you? So you have a doctor's appointment, okay? And so you head on into the office and there's an admin person who is at the front desk and they greet you and they ask you for your name. And then you have a block. You have a really long block. Has the admin person ever asked you if you had forgotten your name?
Yeah, but if I had a pound or a dollar for every time someone assumed that I'd forgotten my name, I'd be a rich
Oh my
man.
God, we're twins, Callum. We're twins. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, whether it's like you said, a doctor's appointment in Starbucks when I started a new job, I didn't have a name badge printed yet. And it's just little things like up until I was say 16, 17, I was still taking my mother to the doctors with me or dentist so she could say my name while I'm standing there taller than her and the receptionist is looking at me thinking, why is he not speaking?
Oh my gosh. I mean, oh my gosh, we are in the same boat because if you had a pound and if I had a dollar for every time, I would have a Range Rover, a Lexus, and a Mercedes Benz in the driveway. Oh my God, yes. Wow. Oh my gosh. So, talk about your career path. Did you let your stammer dictate your career path?
Yes, definitely to a point. I always. It was hard because in my head, I was thinking, right, I don't want it to hold me back. But I know deep down it always did. As I work for McDonald's at the moment and have done for a year and a half, and it is a good job, but I always thought I would never get promoted, never be a trainer. But well, that's all changed now. I'm now pushing for a promotion, and in a few weeks, I should be in charge of training the new people, and that's something I never thought I could do. So, and then I'm also trying to push to become a motivational speaker. I'm trying to make an impact on social media at schools to try and raise awareness of stammering and stuttering to really, make that impact on people's lives. So for me, if there was a way I could make speaking and raising awareness into my full-time job, I would love it. But it's weird for someone with a stutter, I find, to say that I love meeting people and hearing their stories. So if I could make sort of being a stuttering activist, you could say, into a full-time job, that'd be perfect for me.
Wow. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on your promotion and say that is awesome that you will now be a trainer. That's awesome. And so I am proud of you. Your new friend in Texas is proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, let me tell you Pedro's story because growing up, would watch a lot of TV shows about lawyers. So I wanted to be a lawyer. And so in college, I told myself I'll be pre-law. I will be pre-law. And so when I was in college, this movie came out. I d- I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called My Cousin Vinny. Have you heard of it?
Um, no, I don't think I have actually.
Okay, well, let me tell you, there is a scene, and so I will never forget this. So I was at a movie theater watching this movie. I had my popcorn and my drink. I mean, I was having a good afternoon. And so all of a sudden, one of the characters is a lawyer, a much older lawyer. And during the courtroom scene, when he gets up to address the jury, oh my goodness, he had a severe stutter. And I was watching him with my mouth open. I was watching him trying to talk, and he was banging on the jury box with his hand to help him get out a word. And he was sputtering and spitting on the people in the jury box. And so I thought, oh my gosh, that is not going to be Pedro. That is not going to be me. And so what I did on that Monday, I went to school and changed my major from pre-law to psychology. And so now I just help people, but in a different way. But that movie completely changed the path of my career. And so that's why I was wondering if that had ever happened to you.
Not as such, no, but since I was, a child, I've always wanted to be a police officer, and I always have, and I think part of me always will. And only now I'm actually thinking maybe I should just go for it, because obviously through school, if I mentioned even the slightest that I thought about it to anyone, I would get laughed out the room practically. So, I think maybe as much as I do enjoy my job at the moment, I think maybe if things were different in the past, I would have probably definitely taken a different path.
Well, whatever you do, I support you. You have a friend in Texas that will support you, so it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Who can ask for more?
You're the best, Callum. You're the best. So here is a hot topic. I mean, this is like the hottest topic out there right now for people who stutter. Although there are many hot topics, but but
Yeah.
here's the hottest one. So, how is dating? Because as you know, dating is hard enough, but if you have a stutter, it's like 100 times more difficult. So, how do you handle dating?
Well, you're quite lucky that you're talking to the king of the friend zone from across here in the UK. And that should explain enough.
Okay, enough said. No, just kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, I think obviously your stutter, it does chip away at your confidence. And when you see, a girl you find attractive, then even people who don't have a stutter sometimes stutter. So what hope have you got?
That's so true.
So yeah.
It's so true. Yes.
So I find, obviously, it has held me back because it's like you always think, should I mention it? Should I not mention it? How am I going to do? Like if they say they want to go out for food, you think, right, you can't exactly take them to McDonald's and order off the kiosk with my employee discount as much as I would like to. Yeah, so that's the thing, especially if I'm out and I'm not having a drink. It's what's the girl going to think when someone comes up to them who can't say his own name? So I think that'll knock on your confidence. That little seed of doubt does definitely grow. But then you need, when it comes to dating, to find someone who actually understands what a stutter is, who knows that you're not nervous and actually accepts it as well. So yeah, it's quite hard. I find, yeah.
The friend zone. I love that. In the friend zone. Okay. So with all this new technology, you have all those home devices. You have Google Home, you have Alexa, and then you have the one that starts with an S that I cannot say, but it's with Apple. Do
Yeah.
do you think that it's helpful for people who stutter, or do you think that it might be a crutch?
I think it's helpful up to a point. As anytime you can practice your speech, to me, will always help a little bit. But there's like a cut-off point. Because talking to an Alexa, which I've got personally, is completely different to talking to a person. So as much as I can practice saying things, like I'm from Wales in the UK, and I always found that hard to say. So I would say, Alexa, what's the weather in South Wales? But then that would help me because I would think, yes, I can say it. But it's a completely different ball game speaking to a person. So I think it's important to not rely on this technology too much.
That's a good point. I bought a new vehicle. It's a big SUV, and well, it's Texas, so it has to be big.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Hello, have we met? And so the vehicle is voice activated, but I tried. Oh my! I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I've tried. I have sat in that vehicle, sweating, trying to say the word to voice activate, and I just can't do it. But it's okay. I'll just push a button. I mean, I have to get from point A to point B, and so there is that option to voice activate everything. But you know what? I will just manually push the button because I had to get somewhere, and so I can't wait hours to
Yeah.
car on. you know, AC on, radio. I mean, I know. So, I just push a button. It's just me. So, speech wise, what has been a challenge for you that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
I think the biggest challenge for me was just being open about my stutter and actually saying, yes, I have a stammer. I think because that level of acceptance takes a long time to get to, as we talked about earlier. You don't want to seem any different or stand out for a negative reason. So my biggest challenge was accepting my stammer. As soon as I speak openly about it, whether it's talking to people in work, my friends, putting it on my social media, posting on Facebook about my stammering journey. That's something I've never done and never thought I could do, and by far the hardest thing I did. I found it okay to write it, but just pushing that post button, that was, so many things were going through my mind. And that's what stammering does to you. It makes you insecure. So, yeah, so personally, I think being open and talking about my stammer to improve my own speech has been my biggest challenge by far.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, that's just wow. So, what has st- what has stuttering taught you?
The first thing I say it's taught me is to never judge a book by its cover, so to speak. To always look beyond the person you see, as we've got a stutter, but everyone has their own insecurities, their own skeletons in the closet. I think it's also taught me that there's always a way of acceptance and making things better. If you think something's going to hold you back, my stepdad's taught me to not let it hold me back. Since I learned to accept it, that's really turned my life around, and I am so lucky that it's come at this early age that I can do that. So, yeah, and there's the obvious thing that it's taught me to be uh, patient and to not take things for granted. As obviously, speaking is something we all take for granted because some people don't bat an eyelid about it, but then to us, it's a day-to-day challenge. So yeah, to not take things for advantage is another thing it's taught me. So it's quite a lot of things when I think about it. It's quite hard to condense down everything having a stutter has taught me.
Right. Right. Like you, my stutter has taught me a great many things. My stutter has taught me compassion. It has taught me courage. It has taught me empathy, which is huge because now I can feel what the other person is feeling. And many people tell me that their stuttering is a curse, but for me, and then I can only speak for myself, my stutter has been a blessing because it's taught me a lot about who I am and what I can do in this world. And so many people who stutter might find that quite odd, but to me, it has been a blessing.
I really agree with you on that, as I know my stutter has helped me meet some incredible people, yourself included, of course.
Oh,
And
you too, Callum.
has
You
taught
too.
me a
You
lot.
too.
Yeah. And I have learned a lot. The person I am today is because of my stutter. And I think this is just my opinion, but people who think, like you said, it is a curse or, wish they didn't have this stutter, this and that, I think, they clearly haven't accepted who they are. Because, we can't change having a stutter. If we could, I think everyone probably would have, at one point or another. But you need to get to that point when, you are accepting of it. So if you still feel like it's a curse or a burden on you, then you're not accepting who you are in my book.
Right. I 100% agree with you. Now, I would like to thank you for coming onto this podcast and sharing your story because I believe that there's healing in sharing. I think you are awesome. I think you are courageous. I think you are just hashtag phenomenal. And so I want to thank you for taking time to just hang out with me. And how can people reach out to you? Because I have the best audience. Let me tell you, my listeners are from all over the world. And so let's say they wanted to reach out to you. How could they do that?
Well, I've got a website which is up and running, which is called Proud Recovering Stammerer.wordpress.com, and that's got everything from my contact details to what I do, and also a blog post where I post anything you would think of stammering related. I've also got a Facebook page which is Callum Schofield, and again that's where I try to do a lot to raise awareness of stammering. My Twitter, that's where I get a lot of my audience from, is at Callum Schof, so that's CALLUMSCHOF. And finally, my Instagram is Callum_Schof, so CALLUM_SCHOF.
How cool. We will have all those links in the podcast episode show notes. And so that way anyone from around the world can find you and reach out to you because I think you are just awesome. You have a bright future. And so I can picture you in a huge stadium talking to people and motivating them. So I am putting that out there. I'm going to manifest that right now. I can see you out there, and Pedro will have a ticket, FYI. I will be there. I will be there because I am in your corner. Pedro from Texas, I support you, Callum. I support you. So I can see you doing that in your future. So I am ready. Just tell me. We'll have to find my passport because I don't know where it is, but I will definitely be there.
Yes, thank you very much. That is a dream for me, really. Just to talk to people and share my stories, because if I can just help one person, whether they've got a stutter or whether they don't, if I can just make a difference to them, then I'd be happy. But just for me, the fact that I'm a normal lad from South Wales valleys, and I'm here on your podcast. You're from Texas. And that's hard to comprehend for me.
Love your accent.
Stuff like this doesn't happen to people like me is a cliche. But yeah, it is incredible, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to where things can go, hopefully.
Well, Callum, this will not be our last conversation. You can bet that this will not be the last time that we talk, because I will have many more topics to cover with you. And when you have your first motivational speaking gig, you know I will have you back on this show to tell everybody, the entire world, where you will be, because you can bet that I will be there, because you are awesome. You have a voice, you have a story to tell, and people need to hear it because it's just awesome. And so I want to thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope you have an awesome afternoon.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed myself just having this open conversation, getting to know you more, learning about your stories and sharing mine. It's been a really enjoyable and beneficial experience, I think, as well.
Thank you, sir. You be well.
Thank you, and you.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.